Hello everyone and welcome back to Prestige Reef. While my tank is recovering from its recent issues, I thought I'd take you back to the very beginning with regards to how I started my tank with virtually no money and have continued to this day to run a tank which pays for itself. That's right, everything I used to run my tank, from the premium equipment like my MP40s all the way down to my cleanup crew, was either purchased with money I made from the hobby or traded with fellow reefers and shops to get to where it is today. This is what I like to refer to as guilt-free spending. Before we get to that, however, we're gradually creeping towards our goal of getting the channel to 24,000 subscribers. So if you aren't yet subscribed, why not help me out and take the time to click that subscribe button? And if you're already a subscriber, don't forget to click that like button. YouTube is without a doubt a labour of love. These videos take approximately 8 hours to make, and these small gestures for any YouTube channel make a huge difference to the creator. Right, let me take you back to the beginning. My first real plunge into aquatics came at the age of 16, when my girlfriend's brother had a fish tank. That tank was clearly neglected, and despite having little to no knowledge, I threw myself into the task of bringing it back up to scratch, and I became hooked. The tank was mainly stocked with humdrum freshwater fish, but to me this didn't matter. I found them fascinating, and as far as I was concerned, every life was equal, a mentality sadly lacking amongst too many people that keep fish. When something died, I wanted to know exactly why. This thirst for answers expanded my knowledge immensely. The nitrogen cycle became second nature and I felt it was time for my own tank. I'm not quite sure what changed, but for years I had begged and pleaded with my parents for my own little glass box. But my requests had always fallen on deaf ears. "You'll never look after it," they said. "It's too much responsibility," they said. "We'll end up taking care of it," they said. How little did they know? Eventually they gave in. This was when they made their first mistake. A reasonably large mistake considering they know what their son's like. They hadn't specified a tank size. I knew they were going away on holiday in a month, so I waited and sourced a second-hand, 5-foot, 400-litre dual Rio 400 for just £400. This was a complete setup with a breeding group of frontosas and 2 massive plex. It was without a doubt one of the best purchases I ever made. The owner had to move the tank on quickly, therefore I was getting an absolute bargain. I knew I always wanted a marine tank, so I had already arranged to sell the frontosas to someone else the day after I collected them, for exactly £400. This meant I got my very first tank completely free. There are literally hundreds of deals available like this all the time. The sad truth is, this hobby has a very high turnover rate, as success doesn't come to everyone, and people often give up at the first hurdle due to failure from lack of knowledge. What's even more true is that people are more than happy to take a significantly reduced rate if you're willing to take their problems away for them. This applies to many other aspects of life as well. Everyone wants an easy life, and if you're willing to go to someone's house, catch their livestock, bag everything up, completely dismantle the tank and move it without them having to lift a finger, people will usually bite your hand off. No one wants the hassle of selling things off separately where multiple people come round to buy one thing and then each of them spends the next 2 hours chatting to you as you gradually try to back away slowly. The day my parents went on holiday was the day I went to pick up the tank. I moved the computer and desk out of the study to make room for it, and I planned to set it up before they got back. By then it would be too late for them to dispute the size or location. I learned a lot the day I moved it in. I learned a heater will explode in your hand if you turn it on outside water. I learned aquariums are far heavier than they look, and I learned how to tell who your true friends are. What you have to do is call them up in the middle of the night, in the middle of winter, and ask them to move a very heavy fish tank. The ones that turn up are the ones you owe a beer to. I barely slept that night. My perfect plan to get an entirely free setup was put in jeopardy by the little mishap with the heater. This meant I had to warm up water in the kettle to the correct temperature prior to the fish being introduced. By this point it was now 2 AM, therefore it was 7 hours before the fish shop reopened and I could buy them a new heater. Much to the displeasure of my partner at the time, I set my alarm to go off every 2 hours so I could go downstairs and check everything was still alive and adjust the temperature if required. Somehow, unbelievably, everything survived the night. I picked up a new heater in the morning and the people came to collect the fish who were none the wiser of my ordeal the last 12 hours. It's been almost 11 years since that day, and when I look back, it's amazing to see how far I've come since then. What's even more amazing is those frontosas are still alive, and from what I can tell, they kept their secret about their brief time in my care a secret from their owner. At first, the majority of my livestock were birthday and Christmas presents, along with the occasional unwanted fish, which were being given away because no one else wanted them. This is a pretty dangerous route to acquire livestock, because usually there's a reason people don't want them, and more often than not it's due to aggression. This tank ran for about a year and was reasonably unsuccessful. It ran off 2 external filters without a protein skimmer or reactors, complete with old T8 bulbs for lighting, and not a single test kit in sight. It seems crazy to me now that at the time I questioned why I had algae issues. At this point I decided to shut the tank down and sell it, but not before I found another second-hand 500 litre upgrade, which came complete with protein skimmer for exactly the same cost I sold this tank for, which in turn continued my trend of essentially free tanks. For those of you that managed to get this far into the video, let me know in the comment section below how you found your very early days in the hobby. That's it for today guys. I'll continue this story in a later video with what I did next and how I continue to this day to have a tank which completely funds itself. Have a good week and I'll see you next time. As always, I just want to thank everyone that supports me on Patreon. Never underestimate the value of what you do with regards to keeping this channel going. You've all been brilliant. Thank you.